You know the campfire tale. The one about the creepy hermit who vanishes into the woods, never to be seen again. Just a local boogeyman, a ghost story parents tell their kids. You probably just dismissed it. But what if I told you he was real, and he was found 27 years later? These are the urban legends you always thought were fake, but they have terrifyingly real origins, backed up by police reports. From the body found in a motel ceiling to the stalker who sent letters detailing a family's every move. We're told these are just stories, cautionary tales to make us lock our doors at night. But sometimes the most outlandish, most unbelievable legends are the ones grounded in a horrifying reality. The truth isn't just stranger than fiction, it's a whole lot more terrifying. Today, we expose the facts behind the folklore.
Number 5. The Watcher House. This legend is a modern classic because it preys on something we all crave, feeling safe in our own homes. The story goes like this. A family saves up, buys their dream house in a perfect suburb, and just before they move in, the letters start arriving. They're from someone called the Watcher, who claims his family has been guarding the house for generations. The letters are filled with chilling details, the kids' names, the family car, the renovations they're planning. The Watcher sees everything. The dream home turns into a prison of paranoia, and the family is forced to flee, never knowing who was watching. It sounds like a Hollywood thriller, but for Derek and Maria Brodus, this nightmare was real, and it began in June of 2014. The true story starts in Westfield, New Jersey, a town often listed as one of the safest in the country. It was the kind of place people moved to raise a family, where the American dream felt real. Derek and Maria poured their life savings into 657 Boulevard, a beautiful 6-bedroom home that cost them $1.3 million. It was more than a house. It was where their 3 young children were supposed to grow up. Just 3 days after closing, before they'd even moved in, Derek checked the mail. Inside was a thick white envelope addressed in clunky handwriting to the new owner. He opened it. The letter inside started off friendly enough. "Dearest new neighbor at 657 Boulevard, allow me to welcome you to the neighborhood." But that friendly tone vanished almost immediately. The writer, the Watcher, revealed a disturbing obsession with the house. "My grandfather watched the house in the 1920s, and my father watched in the 1960s. It is now my time." Then, the words grew more specific and way more menacing. The Watcher knew their last name, which wasn't public record. They knew the number and ages of their children, calling them the young blood you have brought to me. The letter asked, "Do you need to fill the house with the young blood I requested? Once I know their names, I will call to them and draw them to me." The letter proved the Watcher was close, noting that Derek had been in the house and been seen. It talked about secrets hidden in the walls and asked, "Have you found all of the secrets it holds yet?" The final lines were a chilling promise. "You know I will be watching." The Brodus family was terrified. They immediately called the Westfield police. But who was the suspect? It could have been anyone. A neighbor, a stranger, someone with a twisted connection to the property? The police initially looked at the family next door, described by some as eccentric, but an investigation and DNA samples cleared them completely. A few weeks later, a second letter arrived, this time addressing Derek and Maria by their names, though misspelled. This one was even unhinged. The Watcher knew the children's nicknames and birth order. "I am pleased to know your names now and the name of the young blood you have brought to me," it read. The letter mentioned the kids' art easel on the porch, visible from the street. "It is watching all of the windows of 657 Boulevard. It is watching you," the letter warned. Their dream had become a waking nightmare. They stopped bringing their children to the house. Consumed by anxiety, Derek and Maria stayed up all night watching the street from the safety of their parents' home. They installed alarms and cameras, but the watcher remained a ghost. A third letter came, asking, "Where have you gone to? 657 Boulevard is missing you." The police investigation stalled. They looked into neighbors and former housekeepers. They even considered a theory that the Brodus family was faking it out of buyer's remorse, but that was quickly dismissed. They brought in private investigators and ex-FBI profilers. One analysis suggested the writer was older and well-read. DNA recovered from an envelope seal suggested the sender was female, but it didn't match any known suspect, leaving them at another dead end. For 5 years, they paid the mortgage on a house they were too afraid to live in. They were trapped. They tried to sell, but the story was local news. Who would buy a house that came with its own stalker? They even tried to get permission to tear the house down, but the town planning board refused. Finally, in 2019, after 5 years of psychological torment and financial ruin, the Brodus family sold 657 Boulevard at a loss of over $400,000. The new owners have reportedly never received a letter. The Brodus family lived the urban legend. Their story, documented in news reports and police files, became a modern folktale, a cautionary story about the darkness that can hide just beneath a perfect suburban surface. To this day, no one knows who the Watcher is.
Number 4. The Body in the Ceiling. This is one of the most stomach-churning urban legends out there. The details change, but the story is always the same. A traveler checks into a cheap motel and is hit with a horrible smell. They complain, but the staff just shrugs it off, maybe sprays some air freshener and blames the plumbing. The guest tries to ignore it, but the stench just gets worse. Finally, totally grossed out, they start searching the room and find it, a dead body stuffed in the box spring or under the bed. It's a story that taps into our vulnerability when we travel, but this isn't just a story. In January of 2010, in Memphis, Tennessee, it happened for real, in a way that was even more horrifying. The true story is about Soni Millbrook, a 29-year-old mother of 5. In early 2010, she was staying with her children and her boyfriend, Lakeith Moody, at the Budget Lodge Motel. On January 27, 2010, Soni Millbrook vanished. Her family reported her missing, telling police she was last seen at the motel. Investigators visited 2 days later. By then, Moody had also disappeared, and management had locked the room, number 222, for non-payment. For reasons that are still baffling, the investigators never actually went inside to search. Life at the Budget Lodge went on. A few days after Soni disappeared, a new guest checked into room 222. The moment he walked in, he was hit by an overpowering stench. He later told reporters it was a stanky and foul odor. He noticed that someone had stuffed dryer sheets into the ceiling tiles, trying to mask the smell. He complained to the front desk every day, but was told it was probably just a dead animal. He said the smell was worst when he was near the bed. Over the next 2 months, room 222 was rented out at least 5 more times. Each time, housekeepers cleaned it. Each time, new guests came and went. And each time, the complaints about the smell continued. Staff would spray deodorizers, but the foul smell of decay always came back. Meanwhile, Soni Millbrook's family was desperately searching for her. Police had located her boyfriend, Lakeith Moody, after he was caught using her benefits card. He was arrested on an unrelated charge, but there was still no sign of Soni. The break in the case didn't come from the police, it came from Soni's own family. Convinced Moody was involved, they tracked him back to the Budget Lodge and went to room 222. The moment they entered, the stench, now almost unbearable, confirmed their worst fears. This was not a dead rat. This was the smell of death. They called the police. This time, investigators went in.
The smell was strongest near the bed, but there was nothing in or under it. Then they looked up. Acting on a horrifying hunch, they pushed aside a ceiling tile in the crawl space right above the bed. And there she was. The body of Soni Millbrook had been hidden in the narrow space between the ceiling of room 222 and the floor of the room above. She had been there for nearly 2 months. Police believe her boyfriend strangled her the day she disappeared, hid her body, and fled. He was later convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison. The legend is about finding a body in your room. The reality was uniquely grotesque. For weeks, guests at the Budget Lodge weren't just sleeping in a room with a body, they were sleeping directly underneath it, breathing the air, complaining about the smell, never imagining the source of the horror was just a few feet above their heads.
Number 3. The Killer in the Medicine Cabinet. This is a legend that sounds like pure paranoia. The story says that in some older apartment buildings, you can get into someone's home through their medicine cabinet. The idea is that the cabinets in adjoining apartments share a utility shaft, and if you remove one, you can crawl through to the other side. In the legend, someone is brushing their teeth and sees a hand reach through the mirror. It's the stuff of horror movies, most famously Candyman, but it sounds too crazy to be real. Except it is, and the true story of Ruthie Mae McCoy is a tragedy about a system that failed to protect her. The story takes place in 1987 in Chicago's notorious ABLA public housing projects. 52-year-old Ruthie Mae McCoy lived alone on the 11th floor. Ruthie had a history of mental health struggles, which sometimes made her seem paranoid. This is a tragic key to why what happened next was so easily dismissed. On the evening of April 22, 1987, a frantic Ruthie McCoy called 911. She told the dispatcher someone was breaking into her apartment through her bathroom wall. She was agitated, but she was clear. They had throwed the cabinet down and were coming in. The dispatcher likely heard a confusing claim from a woman with known mental health issues and didn't classify it as a high-priority home invasion. A car was sent for a disturbance with a neighbor. By 9:02 p.m., no officers had arrived. Just then, a neighbor called 911 to report loud banging, screams, and gunshots coming from Ruthie's apartment. Another neighbor called 2 minutes later with the same report. Police finally arrived at 9:10 p.m. They knocked on Ruthie's door. No answer. They could hear her phone ringing inside. Hesitant to break down the door and with no key available, they made a fateful decision. They left. The next day, a worried neighbor who hadn't seen Ruthie called 911 again. This time, police and housing security came. Again, no answer, and again they left, discouraged from breaking down the door over liability concerns. It wasn't until the next afternoon, 2 full days after Ruthie's first call, that a building manager finally drilled the lock. They found Ruthie Mae McCoy dead on her bedroom floor. She had been shot 4 times. The investigation revealed a horrifying truth. The apartment buildings had a fatal design flaw. The medicine cabinets were installed in openings leading to a shared pipe chase. By removing one cabinet, a person could crawl through the shaft and push out the cabinet in the next apartment, creating a hidden door. This wasn't a secret. It was a well-known security risk among residents. Break-ins using this exact method were common. People would barricade their bathroom doors at night, terrified of an intruder coming not from the hall, but from inside their own wall. Ruthie herself had been burglarized this way before and had reported it, but nothing was ever done. Police determined the intruders came from the next-door apartment. 2 young men were arrested, but with little physical evidence and a witness who changed their story, both were acquitted. Ruthie McCoy's murder remains officially unsolved. Her story is the direct, tragic origin of the legend. Her frantic 911 call wasn't a delusion, it was a real-time report of her own murder. She was dismissed because the truth sounded too much like a bizarre fantasy. This is a case where a horror movie trope played out in real life with fatal consequences.
Number 2. The North Pond Hermit. Almost every rural town has a version of this story, the legend of the local hermit. He's a shadow in the woods, a ghost people whisper about. He's blamed for missing tools, food vanishing from cabins, and that strange feeling you're being watched on a trail at dusk. Over time, the myth grows. He becomes a wild man, a boogeyman. And mostly, people assume that's all he is, a story. But for the community around North Pond in central Maine, the myth was very real. His name was Christopher Thomas Knight. The story really begins with his capture. On April 4, 2013, a game warden set up a silent surveillance system at a summer camp that had been plagued by mysterious burglaries for years. Food, batteries, and propane tanks would just vanish. That night, the alarm tripped. The warden watched on a monitor as a gaunt man meticulously broke into the camp's kitchen. When he was apprehended, the man surrendered without a fight. He seemed almost relieved. When asked his name, he said, Christopher Knight. When asked how long he'd been in the woods, his answer was unbelievable. He said the last time he'd spoken to another person was in 1986. Knight then led police to his home, a campsite so cleverly hidden it was virtually invisible even from a few feet away. For 27 years, this tiny patch of woods had been his entire world. He told them his story. In 1986, at 20 years old, he had a good job installing alarm systems. One day, without telling anyone, he drove to Maine, parked his car on a remote track, left the keys in it, and just walked into the forest with a tent and a backpack. He had no plan. He just wanted to disappear. For nearly 3 decades, he lived in total solitude. He said the only human interaction he had was once in the 90s when he passed a hiker and managed to say a single word, "Hi." To survive, he stole. He figured he'd committed over 1,000 burglaries, about 40 a year. He operated like a ghost, only at night, learning the schedules of every cabin owner around the lake. He stole propane so he wouldn't need a fire, which would create smoke. He stole food, clothes, tools, batteries for his radio and TV, and countless books. Over the years, he became the local legend. People knew someone was out there. A steak might be missing from a freezer, a new pair of boots from a closet. Some residents were terrified, others were fascinated, leaving notes for the hermit, some begging him to stop, others offering help. No one ever saw him. Police were baffled for decades. They'd find footprints in the snow that would just end because Knight had learned to step only on rocks. They had no name, no suspect, no idea they were hunting a man who had been living among them since the Reagan administration. Knight struggled to explain why he did it. He said he just felt an overwhelming need to be alone, a discomfort so profound that vanishing felt like the only option. He felt incredible guilt over the thefts, but saw it as his only way to survive. Christopher Knight was sentenced to 7 months in jail. The boogeyman from the campfire stories was real. But the truth wasn't a monster. It was Christopher Knight, a quiet, intelligent man who undertook one of the most extreme acts of solitude ever documented. The legend was about a fearsome creature. The truth was about a profoundly lonely human being.
Number 1. Cropsey, the boogeyman of Staten Island. The legend of Cropsey is pure, distilled campfire horror. For generations on Staten Island, it was the story used to keep kids in line. Don't stay out after dark, don't go in the woods, and whatever you do, stay away from the ruins of the old Willowbrook State School, because that's where Cropsey lived. The legend shifted. Cropsey was an escaped patient with an axe or a hook for a hand. He lived in the abandoned buildings or the dark tunnels underneath, and he snatched children who wandered too far.
It was a terrifying story, the kind of local boogeyman myth every town has, a fiction made up to scare kids straight. But in the 1970s and 80s, children on Staten Island started to disappear for real. The line between folklore and a horrifying reality began to dissolve. The boogeyman, it turned out, had a name. The truth is tied to two things: the monstrous reality of the Willowbrook State School and a real-life monster named Andre Rand. First, you have to understand Willowbrook. Opened in 1947, it was a state institution for children with developmental disabilities. By the 60s, a facility built for 4,000 held over 6,000. The conditions were subhuman. In 1972, a young Geraldo Rivera smuggled a camera inside, exposing it to the world. His report showed children, naked and filthy, rocking back and forth in empty rooms, suffering from rampant abuse and neglect. Willowbrook wasn't a haunted house in a story, it was a real-life house of horrors. The school was finally closed in 1987, but its decaying buildings were left to rot, the perfect setting for a boogeyman story. It was against this backdrop that children started to vanish. 5-year-old Alice Carrera in 1972, 7-year-old Holly Ann Hughes in 1981. With each disappearance, the whispers of Cropsey grew louder. The breaking point came in July 1987 when 12-year-old Jennifer Schweida, who had Down syndrome, disappeared. 35 days later, her body was found in a shallow grave on the grounds of the abandoned Willowbrook School. The place from the legend was a real crime scene. Police immediately focused on Andre Rand. Rand was a drifter who had once worked as a janitor at Willowbrook. After it closed, he became homeless, living in makeshift camps in the woods and tunnels around the abandoned school. He was almost literally the boogeyman from the stories. Witnesses had seen Rand with Jennifer shortly before she disappeared. When her body was found just yards from his campsite, the connection was clear. Police arrested Rand. At trial, the prosecution painted him as a predator who used the desolate grounds of Willowbrook as his personal hunting ground. The jury couldn't convict him of murder, but they found him guilty of kidnapping in 1988 and was sentenced to 25 years to life. But the story doesn't end there. In 2004, they were finally able to charge him with the 1981 kidnapping of Holly Ann Hughes. He was found guilty again and sentenced to another 25 years to life. He won't be eligible for parole until he's 93. The Cropsey legend is the ultimate horrifying example of a folktale acting as a subconscious community warning. The fictional boogeyman was a placeholder for the very real evil of Andre Rand. The place the legend warned kids to avoid was exactly where the real monster was hiding. The parents of Staten Island were telling their children a ghost story to keep them safe, never imagining the ghost was real and he was walking among them.
From a stalker in a dream home to a killer in the ruins of an asylum, these stories prove that the line between folklore and fact can be terrifyingly thin. They remind us that behind every campfire tale, there might just be a police report. The things we dismiss as myth sometimes turn out to be true, and that is a truly chilling thought. The world is full of these stories. Maybe your own hometown has one. Let us know in the comments below. What's a local legend that gives you the chills? You never know, it might just be true. Thanks for watching.